What is going on, ladies, gentlemen, listeners of the Didn't Ask podcast? Welcome back to another episode of this right here podcast, the Didn't Ask podcast. How's everybody doing? I hope you had a good weekend. I certainly did, even though it was bloody fucking hot. Ah, man, fucking global warming is a thing, and people keep denying it. And I'm just here fucking melting away with fucking 30 degrees in the Netherlands. We shouldn't have fucking temperatures go this high this often, especially. Like, it can go higher once in a while, then I'm fine with it. But the fact is that we are having this shit constantly now, and it's just pissing me off. I cannot handle the heat. I cannot sleep. It sucks. It's bad. Luckily, today it's Monday, and the temperatures are going down. It's fantastic. I put all my windows open and all the doors open so everything can just aerate. And hopefully the high temperatures in the house are just going away and are never returning for the rest of this year, because fuck me, I am done with this bullshit. Other than that, I had a fun weekend, enjoyed some wrestling, because wrestling is really getting good again. Again, thank you, Triple H, for taking over creative, because man, it's been such a blast. We are seeing people back that we haven't seen, people that we thought would maybe never even come back, like Killer Cross, like fucking Hit Row. Fucking Hit Row came back to SmackDown, man. And if you didn't know, now you know. Fucking man, the thing is, like, with me and wrestling, it sucks that I live in a different time zone and I cannot really watch it live ever, because I see spoilers every time I go to Twitter or Instagram, and it kind of sucks. So I try, especially with pay-per-views or premium live events, I try to stay off of social media, and for premium live events, especially the big ones, I generally just turn off all my social media. So I turn on the settings of those apps in my phone, so I can open them, but it doesn't display anything. So yeah, but I don't really do that for Raw and SmackDown, especially this SmackDown, because it was like a random SmackDown, so to speak. But I should have, because then I would have not known that Hit Row would be coming back. But man, it's great to have them back. I think that Hit Row represents such a very important piece of the WWE universe. So having them back in the ring is absolutely fantastic. And it's sad that they don't have Isaiah Swerve Scott with that, because he, of course, was part of Hit Row. They were the four of them. He right now is in AEW doing fantastic, being the AEW Tag Team Champion together with Keith Lee. So he has nothing to worry about. But again, it's a little bit sad that he cannot be with the reunion of Hit Row. But then again, it was fantastic. And then, of course, we had UFC on Sunday. Dominic Cruz versus Marlon Chito Vera. And man, that fight, crazy. Like, the whole fight card was pretty fucking good. But specifically that main event, it was absolutely crazy. We had Dominic Cruz coming out, guns blazing, picking up the pace from the first moment the bell rang. And Chito Vera had some difficulty with him in the first couple of rounds. But Chito Vera is, and showed why he is, one of the best fighters in that division, by knocking out Dominic Cruz square on. Like, he hit him with a head kick straight on the bridge of the nose, and it was done. Good night, Dominic Cruz. Thanks for coming. But Marlon Chito Vera is not going anywhere anytime soon, and he is going to challenge for that title, probably. So we're going to see what's going to be going on with that in the near future. But this is not a podcast where I talk to you about UFC or WWE. I cannot talk about F1 because we're still on summer break. We'll be back next week, I think. So yeah, that's going to be fun. This is the podcast where I talk to you about the most popular questions on the Reddits. The first 5 questions, of course, coming from the Ask Reddit subreddit, and the final one coming from the Am I the Asshole subreddit. So let's check out what is popping on the Ask Reddit subreddit with this first question coming from user Nevtroishi. And they ask, people of Reddit who survive on less than 8 hours of sleep a night. How? For me, sleep has always been a real issue as long as I can remember. I have a very bad tendency to just wake up in the middle of the night and then be awake for a couple of minutes, sometimes an hour, and then falling back asleep and then sleeping for a couple of more hours. I went to a doctor for that and they tried to help me with some things, but didn't really work out that well. I then got medication that should have been helping, but that didn't help either. Now I'm actually getting less and less of those medications, so it's actually seemingly getting worse again, which sucks. So yeah, we need to figure that shit out and see what the fuck we can do about that. But yeah, I generally sleep. So like I go to bed kind of late and I get up kind of early, I guess. So with the time that I dedicate to sleep, I am not even able to get 8 hours of sleep, let alone me then waking up still in the middle of the night and then being awake for an hour to do whatever the fuck. So there are so many things that I'm just like, fuck, man. So I should probably either go to bed a little earlier or get out of bed a little later. But I really like doing my yoga in the morning and I need to be up at a certain time because I have to do shit for work. So that is not really an option. So then it's going to bed earlier, but then I get into this weird thing where I am never really tired. And that is a thing that is really an issue for me, where I am never really tired and therefore I cannot fall asleep that quickly and then I don't sleep for that long and then wake up in the middle of the night and then sleep for another couple of hours and stuff like that. So it is really bad right now for me for sleep, and it's just something that I adapted to. Like since I was young, I've been pretty good on very little sleep. I noticed very vividly that years ago they were doing E3, which we haven't seen, of course, in the last couple of years, but E3 was always a fun time for me as a gamer, just seeing all the announcements and stuff like that. But bad thing about E3 was that all those presentations were always in the middle of the fucking night. So what I would do, and even on school days, which they were always be, because it was always like on a Monday night, I think, and then going into Tuesday, something like that. They would held these press conferences for PlayStation and Xbox and you name it. And I would always try and watch them and then sleep for a couple of hours and then go to school after. And I never really had an issue with that. I slept, sometimes would sleep from like 5 to 7 or something like that, which is absolutely crazy to think about that that is actually a thing that I did. Yeah, that's what I did, and I never really had any issues with that. So going to the question asked by user Neftroisi Troshi, people of Reddit who survive on less than 8 hours of sleep, how I don't know. It's something that your body get used to. I think that that's the real answer. Your body get used to it. Am I very tired? Yes, most of the time. But I'm never tired enough to go to bed very early, and I'm never tired enough to fall asleep in the middle of the day. Because sometimes people do that. They sleep for half an hour or an hour in the middle of the day and then go on. I cannot do that. It just doesn't work for me. So I don't do that, and I still am holding on pretty well. I think that it's just a mindset that you basically get into. Again, your body gets used to it. So if you as a person just stay cool and calm and just do the shit that you need to do, I'm gonna have to say that sometimes, yeah, I'm not that efficient with work and stuff like that because I sleep too little. But I think that overall, I think I do a pretty okay job at my job. So yeah, I think it is something that you just get used to and you have to deal with on your own terms, kinda. So thank you for your question, Neftroshi. Moving on to the second question coming from the Ask Reddit subreddit for today, asked by user Mayo Does. And they ask, what do you think of the FBI raid on Trump? I think that it is very fucking fascinating that that shit is happening right now. Of course, people are fucking pointing at fucking government right now to be like, oh, it's Biden in the office. And the shit that is happening right now with the FBI as well is absolutely fucked because all these Trump supporters are now threatening FBI people. Like everybody that somehow is related to the FBI is getting threatened. And there was like a knife attack at the headquarters of FBI, and that person that did that got shot doing that. So well done, dude. Great job. But yeah, I think that there are so many questions that I have, and we already knew that Trump was a bit of a fucking weird cat when he got into the office. he is a reality show guy. Not only is he a part of them, as in he's the host of Apprentice or was the host of Apprentice and stuff like that, but he also enjoys reality TV quite a lot. And we saw that with him getting Kim Kardashian into the White House with Kanye and stuff like that constantly. So he likes his reality TV shows, but his whole presidency became a fucking reality TV show at this point, with again him being under scrutiny because of the January 6th storming of the Capitol, which of course was already like a what the fuck is going on? Why is the fuck is this guy not doing anything? Why is he not saying anything? You name it. There were so many reasons that he probably should have been impeached or something like that, or at least held accountable for some sort of way. Now, there are many lawsuits. I think there are like 12 lawsuits against him running right now, and the FBI raid probably was part of it. And according to the documents that the FBI had to publish, there are thoughts that he has some very sensitive information and that he just took that from the White House, and normally you would bring that back or just actually leave it at the White House. This man just stocked it in his own fucking vault or safe. So that is very interesting to me, that he has very sensitive information about the US, presumably, maybe even nuclear codes and shit like that. That is just like, well, I don't think you should have those to begin with, but having Trump be the one that have them is even more interesting, especially because they always complain about fucking Biden, his ties to Russia and stuff like that. But I feel like Donald Trump is way more involved in stuff like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that, yeah, it's really good that it doesn't matter who you are. It may be ex-president, it may be an ex-president, it may be like a congressperson or whatever, but everybody gets held to a similar standard. It's definitely not the same standard, but the similar standard, that when there are thoughts of you stealing documents from the White House and holding them in your safe, that you are still very part of today's society where we can just barge up to your house and just do a search of your home and then hopefully find the shit that they were looking for. So that would be my answer to your question, Mayo Das. What do you think of the FBI raid on Trump? I think that is very interesting that it is happening. Very interesting what the reasoning behind it is. And I don't know necessarily if we know if it's true, yes or no. But I think that it's very interesting. And it's good to see that even an ex-president can be held accountable for theft and stuff like that. And possible espionage. So that is very interesting. And I hope that we find out soon what came out of those searches. So thank you for your question, Meodas. Moving on to the third question of the day, coming from user Ironhide _ 77, and they ask, guys, imagine that you are the last male person on Earth. Women will still remain. What will you do? I will probably just continue doing the normal shit that I was doing. I don't think that much is gonna change. I think that there's gonna be a lot of attention pointed towards me, I guess. But I still feel that most things would just go on normally, especially if it's like all men on Earth just suddenly disappear. I still think that there is a infrastructure built enough that is suitable just to continue living on. Like, I don't think that I, as the only male person on Earth, would be any more special than any other person, I guess. I guess that, yeah, there is more of an, I don't know how to say this, but like there is this more of a pronounced, I guess, pronounced way for me to be like in society because I'm the only man. So people that want a man in their life have to fight, for me, I guess. But I think that most things will just continue on. I feel like, again, depending on what the situation is, where if it's just, hey, all the male all the males on Earth just totally disappeared. That's what we're going by. So everything that is going on today is fine and everything is the same, and then tomorrow all men disappear apart from me. I think that there's got to be a lot more fighting for my attention, I guess, in a certain way, but I think that most things will just continue on. I don't think that having women be the only people on Earth that changes much, especially like I said, if it happened today or tomorrow where it's just like one snap and all men are gone. I don't think that there's going to be that big of an issue because, hey, we have sperm banks and stuff like that that are collecting sperm. So if women want to have babies, they don't need a man to do that. They can just go to a sperm bank that is filled with sperm, and then they can get pregnant that way, so they don't need me for that. So I think that, like I said, there's going to be a lot more fighting for my attention. I think that that will be more pronounced for people that want a man in their lives. But I think that women are smart enough to figure out that, hey, I don't really need a man. I can just hang with my girls and do my own thing. I don't think that I am very important in this situation. So, going back to your question, Ironhide underscore 77. Guys, imagine that you're the last male person on Earth. Women will still remain. What will you do? I think that personally, not much for me would change. Like, I work in an office right now as a PR advisor or PR consultant, and 90% of my colleagues are women, and the CEO of the company is a woman. So for me, in that case, it's not much that changes. And then again, I think that if it happened at midnight tonight, I think that we have an infrastructure built enough that will continue to carry us through the next couple of years. Definitely. So I don't think that it's much is going to change for me. Thank you for your question, Ironhide. Moving on to the fourth question of the day, coming from user Daffy Braylon, and they ask, "What is the most disgusting thing you have ever seen in public?" I have seen some disgusting things. Like, I've been to festivals and stuff like that. Shit is disgusting there too, where people have sex in porta potties that people pissed and shit over. That's disgusting. Don't do that shit. I think we talked about this last week with like the worst places to have sex, or the worst place to lose your virginity. I think the question specifically was. But there are so many things that I've seen that are disgusting. The one thing that stays in my mind very vividly was the time where I went to Los Angeles and we went on a walk from the hotel to the nearby shopping mall, which was like a 5 minute walk. It was very close. Very, very good positioning of the Hilton that we went to. But we walked to the mall and then we stood at a crosswalk, and then there was a woman that pulled up on a bike, and then we looked over, like I looked over and realized that she wasn't wearing underwear, but she was like on a pretty high bike and she was wearing like a dress type thing. So you could basically look straight into her vagina, and that was pretty disgusting. So going back to your question, as by user Devi Braylon, what is the most disgusting thing you've ever seen in public? Again, so many festival and party, whatever the fuck you want to call them, porta potties, where it's just like everything is smelly and stings and blood and piss and shit and everything is everywhere. It's disgusting. But then the thing that I saw and that I remember vividly is the woman that rode her bike in sweaty Los Angeles weather without underwear on, where I could just basically look straight up her vagina. And that was not very nice, to say the least. So yeah, thank you for your question, Davy Raylan. Moving on to the fifth and final question of the Ask Reddit subreddit for today, coming from user just underscore replacement 6989, and they ask, if money wasn't an issue, what would be your profession? I think that my profession would probably just be a podcaster and YouTuber and stuff like that, because I really like doing this. I have a blog as well, so I would probably do that a little bit more, because that was basically what I did when I was unemployed, where I would write like 2 or 3 times a week for my blog, do like a review or more like news posty type thing. And I really like doing that. But again, it's basically nobody reads it and it doesn't bring me anything. For this podcast, more people listen to this. Thank you very much for listening, and please leave a rating if you have the ability to do so, because that would help me. And then, maybe in the future we can get some integrations in there and I will make some money off of this. But for now, it's just having fun here. And while I said this question, I was also like thinking like, what would my dream job be? And I think that I would love to work in a zoo for like 1 day in a week or something like that, to just feed the animals and stuff like that. I think that would be amazing to do. If I just get to do whatever the fuck I want anyways, then I just do a blog one day, a podcast the other day, make a YouTube video, maybe even combine that with the zookeeper job, where I just can go into the zoo and then be like, hey, I'm working here on Wednesdays and I'm just going to feed the animals on Wednesday and just have banter with them. I think that that would be a very fun job to do, especially if money is not an issue. So going back to the question asked by user just underscore replacement 3989. If money wasn't an issue, what would be your profession? Again, I would probably just stay in content creation like I'm doing right now, but then there's a little less of a worry about me making money because I got the money. But then I would also try and make myself a person that I would like to feed animals at zoos. I think that would be a very fun thing to do for a day every week or 2 days every week to just feed the animals and then just walk around. I think that that would be a very fun job to do. Thank you for your question. And now, moving on to the final question of the day, of course, coming from the Am I the Asshole subreddit, asked by user throwaway underscore whoop whoop, and they ask, Am I the asshole for telling my mom to change a tattoo? I, a 17-year-old trans, female to man, and am trans, and I came out to my family a few months ago. All in all, everyone has been very supportive, although I believe my mom was a tiny bit bummed. She said she would always support me, though. She just needs time to process all of it, which is honestly painful, but none the reasons why I'm here. My mom got a tattoo with my sister's name and my dad's name after I was born. It's a huge tattoo with a unique that incorporates my sister's name and my dad's name. It covers most of her arm, and she is really proud of it because my older sister designed it and gifted it to her for her birthday. Obviously, constantly seeing my dad's name is kind of triggering to me. Therefore, I told her she needs to remove it. She seemed shocked and told me she's too old for longer tattoo sessions. She hasn't gotten a tattoo in years because of that. She also was diagnosed with depression and uses it as an excuse for not having the energy to change it anymore. I don't really believe her, but whatever. Now, she's often trying to cover it up with clothes, but I feel like it's not enough. Just the knowledge that that name is still there, it haunts me, but she refuses to change it. We had a lot of fights because of it, and she said that she is really trying to hide it, but it's part of her body that she is in love with because there is so much history and love for her children in that tattoo. I can't really relate because I don't have any particular significant tattoos. Now, my birthday was a few days ago, and some family members came over. And the issue came up because my cousin was showing off her new tattoo, and someone asked about the dead name tattoo. My mom got uncomfortable silent and excused herself and went to the kitchen. So everyone started asking me what that was about, and I told them that I wanted her to remove the tattoo, but she doesn't want to. My sister also doesn't want her to because she believes it would look really awful since the entire design is attached to the names, and that the only way to cover it up would be to just make the entire arm black. Anyway, I didn't actually plan for that reaction, but my cousin, who can relate a little bit because she's queer, for some reason got furious and went after my mom and screamed at her for being so unsupportive and accused her of being transphobic. Which I don't believe, although it was nice to see someone get angry about a tattoo because my cousin was finally saying some things I was feeling, but I don't want to put into words. My mom then had a panic attack and left the house. She is now staying with my grandpa, and my dad and my sister are angry at me for making some of my family members gang up on her. Am I the asshole? Thank you for this very elaborate story because, of course, while it is a little bit long for me to read on this podcast, I think that it does really visualize or help visualize what the situation is. And it is a really hard situation because the thing is that the tattoo has meaning to your mom. It's not just a random tattoo that she just wants to cover up. It's not a tattoo of the ex-husband's name. It's the tattoo of the names that she gave to her children. And I think that that is very important for you to remember. And the fact that you want her to either laser it away or get it covered up, I get that because it is your that name and you don't want to be remembered of that. But sometimes, and this is very easily speaking for me because I don't have to deal with those things in my life, but sometimes you need to, remember the past to prevent the future from going wrong type things, which what I'm saying makes no total sense. But like I am very much a big fan of remembering what came before is very important to determine what you do in the future. And while again I cannot understand how you are feeling with that name being mentioned and like being shown, I can understand that this is the name your mother gave you as a child. You are her baby, and seemingly from everything you're telling, she is very supportive of you and she really wants to support you, going as far to try and hide the tattoo for everybody else. But she knows that she loves this tattoo because it was designed by one of her children as well, right? And it shows how much love she has for you by going through all that pain to get that immortalized, basically. So I can understand that it's very hurtful when people in the family start attacking her for something that she did out of love. And it is not like, oh, I did out of love and fucking shot somebody in the face. No, she got a tattoo because she loves you and your sister and had the sister design it. And then she put it on her body because that's what she wanted to do. Not knowing, of course, that you wanted to transition at a later point and then not want to get that name mentioned ever again. So I can understand that that is really hard to put into words, but I think that your mom is doing everything she can to be as supportive for you as possible. And she is trying to hide the tattoo. She is trying to be there for you. And the only thing that she's saying is like, hey, I cannot go through this pain. I don't want to do this. I am too old. I am depressed. The depression thing, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how that feels. So I cannot judge on that. But I feel like your mom is giving enough reasons that why she doesn't want to do it. And again, with your sister having the design made specifically to incorporate the names, I think that, yeah, there is very little you can do, sadly, in this situation. So I think that you should just make peace with this and just be supportive of your mom because she's trying to be supportive of you. And it's not easy for a mom to kind of lose a child in the sense that they brought you up to be this little girl and their daughter, but now they see their daughter slowly faint away, and that could be really hard. Even though you as a person are not jumping out of your family's life per se, but like there is something that's changing, and it's gonna change the dynamic between you as a son now and her as a mother. And I think that that is also really hard for her to understand. So maybe that is the reason why she really loves the tattoo, because it's something that is a memory for her to be like, hey, this is my daughter, and this is the times that I have with my daughter, and this is what it symbolizes. And now we're moving into a new stage in her life or their life to grow in a different way and a different direction than she was planning. So it might be something that's really like, I mean, it clearly is very emotional for her, right? So I think that going back to your question, am I the asshole for telling my mom to change the tattoo? I think yes, you're a little bit of the asshole because you are only taking your own feelings into consideration and not really taking her feelings into consideration. And I can understand you're 17, so you're young, so that hopefully will change in the next couple of years. But I think that yeah, you need to figure things out for yourself a little bit more because I don't think that your mom is not calling you by your dead name. She's not purposefully trying to hurt you. Again, she's actually doing the opposite by trying to hide that tattoo. But it is something that has an emotional attachment because it is something that symbolizes her kids and the people that she put on this world. And I think that that is very important. And again, while you are not stepping away from the family completely, you are as a character in some weird way, shape, or form where you are becoming your own person, and that is of course really hard for a parent. But then having the fact that you are transitioning, that kind of breaks the immersion even more for a parent, where it's just like, hey, it feels like parents didn't have anything to do with you because you completely went into a different direction. Not saying that the direction is wrong, but it's just something that she might just feel really bad in the sense that, hey, she's trying to make you the best person you can be, and somehow that didn't click for you. And again, it's genetic, and that's weird to say that. But yeah, I think that it's just for her very emotionally attached thing that she doesn't want to get rid of because first off, it was designed by her daughter. Second off, it reminds her of what she put in this world and how she connected with you and your sister. So I think that yes, you are the asshole because I think you're not taking into consideration the feelings that your mother has with this tattoo. You're only talking about your own feelings, and I think that that's very, very selfish and very asshole-ish. So that would be my answer to you, throwaway dash whoop whoop. And that's going to be it for this week's episode of the Didn't Ask Podcast, episode 75. I hope you had a good time, and if you did, please leave a rating on Apple Podcast or Spotify, because that's going to help this podcast get to more people, which hopefully increases the quality a bit more in the future. I will be back next week, and if you want to know what I'm doing, you can go to Drag.tv. Over here, you can find all the TV shows and movies that I'm watching. I'm watching Westworld right now. We're getting close to the finish of that. I started Under the Banner of Heaven on Disney, which is very fucking interesting and very cool. Andrew Garfield is fantastic as an actor. It's really fucking cool. If you want to know where this podcast can be found, you can go to anchor.fm/didn't-ask-pod. Over here, you can find all the links where this podcast is available. It's Spotify, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Pocket Cast, you name it, it's there. If it's not somewhere, just let me know by pressing message on that same very page where you can record a voice memo asking a question or telling me where this podcast isn't available. If you want to ask a question, you can do that there. And then I can use your audio clip in this podcast as it is. If you don't want your voice to be heard on this right here podcast, I can totally understand that. Just say that somewhere in your message and I will read your question out myself so you can stay anonymous and nobody has to know who you are. Well, that's gonna do it for me for this week. I hope to see you back next week. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.